Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome to MZ Webinars. This webinar is an introduction to using labour market data to inform your upcoming curriculum planning process. So, scarily, as the new academic year is upon us, for this webinar, we wanted to use this session as a bit of a refresher to remind ourselves how colleges and education providers can use labour market data to inform their curriculum planning process. So over the next 30 minutes, this is what we aim to cover. So I'll give you a brief overview of MZ, who we are and what we do. We'll have a bit of a dive into the new Education Inspection Framework and look at what curriculum intent means in a little bit more detail. We will explore the steps education providers can take in using labour market data to support that upcoming curriculum planning process. And we'll hopefully have a little bit of time at the end to look at an example of how our customers are doing this and answer any questions that you might have. So, very brief overview of who MZ are and what we do, as a reminder for existing customers or for anybody who's new to us and the webinar series. So, our mission is to help people make better decisions relating to the world of work. Being sure that your curriculum offer benefits your students' employment prospects as well as the local economy is a hard balancing act as an education provider. Yet we know it's fundamental to your mission, and it's also the key focus of the new Education Inspection Framework. So as I said, it's our mission at MZ to help people make better decisions relating to the world of work. And how we do this is by providing robust, detailed labour market data to colleges and education providers to help them better understand where you should be focusing your efforts. Should that be within your curriculum planning cycle, engaging with students, or engaging with employers to promote a more relevant curriculum that meets the needs of the local economy. So the new Education Inspection Framework, I'm sure you've all seen this a few times now, this image on the slide. So with the start of the new academic year now in full swing, colleges up and down the country will already be turning their attention to planning the curriculum for the start of next academic year. You'll know, however, there's an added dimension with the introduction of Ofsted's new inspection framework, which basically sets out how inspectors will be grading colleges with these three basic criteria in mind. So intent, implementation, and impact. So underpinning these three I's is that issue of intent, especially in relation to the curriculum design. And the big question Ofsted are really asking is, are college leaders able to show that the curriculum that they're providing has been planned and developed with real intent to give the learners the knowledge and cultural capital they need to succeed in life? But what does this actually mean? So at its core, the idea of curriculum intent is all about making sure that the courses that you put on as a college meet the needs of the local labour market. So then in turn, they can have a real impact on the life of three key people. So firstly, the students learning and essentially making sure that they're learning the knowledge to fill those identified skills gaps within the region. The employers who benefit from that supply of skills and in turn become more productive. And ultimately, the local and regional economy and the community that college sits within. So the framework says inspectors will be looking at two things in particular. So whether the curriculum offers learners the knowledge and skills that reflect the needs of the local and regional context, and whether the curriculum intent takes into account the needs of learners, employers, and the local, regional, and national economy. So really, it's just spelling out the overall mission of the further education sector, which we know is all about giving people the knowledge and skills they need, not only to have successful and rewarding careers, but also to benefit local employers and community. So then, where do MZ come in, and how can colleges ensure that they are heading in the right direction? And at the end of all that, how can they clearly articulate this to Ofsted? So labour market data is an integral element in answering these questions. So without using good labour market insight, alongside the other things, so talking to local employers and stakeholders, planning a curriculum that's intentional in terms of meeting local skills needs is bound to be extremely difficult, and doing it to the satisfaction of Ofsted may well seem impossible at that stage of just starting out. But by having detailed local labour market data at your fingertips, colleges can begin to get a really good idea of where they are in terms of how they currently serve local skills needs, and a much clearer idea of what they need to do to improve this. So if you're a regular on webinars, we kind of really hammer home the importance of using a good mix of structural trend-based labour market data alongside real-time job postings analytics. So what structured labour market data does is allow a college to drill down into very specific industries, occupations and locations in order to get a really good sense of growth over the past few years and then projections into the future. I then mentioned job posting analytics, and what the structural traditional labour market data can do can also be supported by rich job postings data in order to build up an even better understanding of what's going on in our local region in terms of what employers are looking for, what skills and knowledge they need, and how we can build this into curriculum. So for those of you who are familiar with our webinars, you may recognise these 3 steps. We introduced these 3 steps back at the start of last academic year, in line with the launch of our course vision tool. So this was really a starting point to developing a more relevant curriculum and helping providers do this, and that was in line with the new Ofsted guidelines at the time, so way before the new inspection framework. But what it really did was give a good sense of how labour market data can be used, and kind of we believe by looking at these 3 steps we can support you in achieving a meaningful curriculum that reflects those needs of regional and local economic context and helps learners achieve successful outcomes. So step 1 is all about reviewing your provision, so looking at what you currently offer. Step 2 is around translating those course areas to labour market data, so how do the courses that we put on translate into real jobs? And then thirdly is all around making a business case, so how can I justify what we are or aren't doing? How do I tap into that local labour market data to help build a strong business case for courses? So I'm going to take the next 10 minutes to briefly show you each of these points in a little bit more detail. And then we'll look at a bit of a case study after that. So step 1, as I said, is all about reviewing your existing offer and establishing how much of it serves the needs of learners and local employers. So to do this, we need to compare existing courses that you offer with the related demand in the local area. So what we do is take the number of course completers in each subject area for a given year, so say last academic year, and then map each course you offer to the jobs that they typically train through their related SOC codes. So after doing this mapping process, the last bit of data needed is those annual openings that are associated with the occupations that they're trained for, and the labour market data for your area. So what we're seeing on the slide then is basically how we can highlight those areas of undersupply, oversupply, and areas of new opportunity. So the example on the slide shows the annual openings and course completions in 5 subject areas, demonstrating where there's a huge number of learners but not as many jobs, and then the flip side to this as well. So the green bars on each graph show the number of course completions that the college in a given year has had, and then the blue bars show a number of annual job openings in the local area for that chosen year. And then if we look at the bottom graph, what this process also allows us to do is identify areas where the annual openings, so the number of jobs in that region, is significant, but the provider currently offers no courses in this area. So what this does is give the college a really good, solid potential list of areas for course development. So having looked at the curriculum as a whole, identifying the areas of potential oversupply, undersupply, and even areas of high job demand where there's no provision, we can then take a deeper dive into individual course areas in order to get a better sense of how they map to the local labour market realities. So this is useful for both helping us to understand the actual occupations that those courses are connected to, but also the industries that they're employed by as well. So the kind of the bigger picture. So if we take engineering or the engineering subjects area, for example, we can begin to pick out some of the data connected to the 26 occupations we have mapped to that course area. So as well as that projected job growth and median hourly wages for those occupations within that region as a whole, so number of jobs on the top there, the projected job growth from 2017 to 2022, and the median hourly wages. We can also look at this same data for each individual job, which gives us a really good sense of the types of jobs that people are doing in engineering courses and what they might progress into. So we've got everything from metalworking production and maintenance fitters to engineering technicians to design and development engineers, with a breakdown of the jobs, the growth, and the median hourly wages. All really, really useful stuff. This also helps to kind of give us an idea of the employer demand for the sectors that might need them. So the final part of that three-step process is all about identifying skills and building a business case. So we've seen a noticeable shift recently in how employers view employees, with skills taking a far more prominent place in the hiring process than traditional qualifications or maybe those job titles that we used to see. So this is really important for providers when developing new or aligning existing provision. So step 3 looks into that in a little bit more detail and really looks at how skills demand can be identified, and then how this can be used to build a business case for developing new provision. So on the previous slides, we looked at those traditional SOC codes. So IT business analyst, architect and system designer, engineering professional. On these slides, you see job titles. So on the top column, we've got the purple bars, which are looking at specific job titles. So this gives us a really valuable insight into what local employers are looking for, particularly in regards to skills. We basically map all those traditional SOC codes to the job titles, making that connection between the employer and the provider very strong, or even stronger in terms of understanding skills needs. So looking at that engineering kind of group or course area again, those purple bars at the top show the top 10 job titles connected with that engineering course area that employers have been advertising in Leeds for over the last 12 months. So as far as job titles are concerned, we're seeing a demand for mechanical engineers, vehicle technicians and structural engineers, which you can see immediately is much more specific than just engineers. And it just takes it much broader than just that engineering or engineer as a job title. So what we're seeing on that bottom graph is the top 10 hard skills that employers are saying that they need within those job postings. So this is based on the number of times the skills were given in the online job posting and how many times it's kind of popped up. So unsurprisingly, we see engineering at the top of the list, but we can also see some of those skills we wouldn't necessarily think of straight away within an engineering skill set. So computer science, management, communications, all really, really kind of helpful things for when you're starting to think about employability, transferable skills, designing content, etc. So all I've done here is pull out the hard skills, but then the data also allows you to have a look at those soft skills as well. So we've looked at those job titles that employers are looking for. We've also looked at the skills that employers are seeking within those job titles. Job postings can also tell us another really bit of useful information. So we're able to pull exactly who the companies are who are looking to fill these positions. So again, using the engineering example, what I've done here is pull out the top 5 companies looking to hire engineering occupations in the last 3 months in Leeds, and the actual top 5 job postings we're getting this type of data from. So we'll immediately be able to see here that in that engineering, from that engineering course area, we've identified the jobs in terms of SOC codes that they will traditionally go into if they're to do an engineering course. We've had to look at how those SOC codes translate into job titles, the skills that the job titles or the employers are asking for, and here we're getting the actual employer and the job posting. So we can see Yorkshire Water, Network Rail, Advanced Diesel Engineering, and how many jobs that they've posted over the last month. So this is June to August. And then underneath that, what we've got is the actual job posting. So what you'd be able to do on the data is click on this and see everything within that job description. So this basically then takes us far beyond just curriculum planning in terms of supply and demand, so how many completers versus how many openings. But when we're able to pick out the actual positions that the companies are hiring for, we're basically then into the realm of employer engagement. This doesn't only help us build strong business cases for new provision by highlighting real-time demand, but it also gives providers the intelligence to start those much more informed conversations with the employers. So how can we help you fill these positions through apprenticeships, work placements, industry placements once T levels kick in, etc. So coming up to the end of the half hour, one college that have been ahead of the curve on this is BCOT. So some of you might have seen this case study before, so kind of really quickly whiz over it, but basically to help BCOT achieve their aim of aligning existing provision with local labour market demand, the college was the first in the country to try out our curriculum planning tool, Course Vision, which we launched at the beginning of last academic year. BCOT basically gave access to the tool to all curriculum managers, as they're the ones responsible for driving the development of provision. So the curriculum managers have been able to use that tool to upload the ILR data and identify areas of strength, potential threats, and then areas for new development. And from this, they successfully led a project around the creation of a business and animal management course. They've also been able to use the tool to kind of support LEP priorities and understand how their LEP priorities are specific to their local authority or their kind of region specifically. Basically, the college knew what their LEP priorities were on a general basis, but what the tool and the data allowed them to do was dig deeper into those broader priorities to find out what that meant in terms of actual jobs and skills. And one of the examples that they used was the digital sector. So they were able to pull out the priority of the digital sector, have a look at the demand for the digital sector within the BCOT area, and basically pull out a specialism around level 4 and level 5. Last quick thing around BCOT. They've used the business case report to be able to quickly identify which employers are putting out the most jobs in the area. So that then gives them a targeted list of prospects for their work placement and apprenticeship teams to go out and have conversations with. So really good examples of course vision over the last kind of 12 months within our customers. We're about to launch Course Vision 2.0. So taking into consideration some really valuable feedback from some of our customers. And we're really excited to kind of get this off the ground and add in the new elements. So firstly, we're adding in the economy overview, which is currently part of our bigger analyst tool, but it will just help provide more contextual information for any area, including things like population, average wages, and total regional employment. And it gives other key regional statistics such as the top 3 largest industries, the demographic makeup of an area, and some really kind of key bits of data to help set the scene. Secondly, we've heard a great deal of feedback around the new Education Inspection Framework about the justification of course provision and transferable skills. So one example we all know about that just keeps coming up over and over again is hair and beauty. So basically we were trying to answer the question, how does the college justify a course that doesn't have the job demand but is still in demand from the students? So we can pull out the key skills demonstrated within that, basically that kind of area, and demonstrate how these can be transferred to different occupations, which might help customers justify running courses that may have not had a massive regional demand but provide significant revenue to the college and have a student demand. So in-demand skills chart basically gives an overview of the skills demand by region compared to the national average, given that kind of really low level detail of what in-demand skills are specific to your region. And the last update to Course Vision is the skills by region packet. So expanding further on that deep dive into skills, the report shows the broad skills demands in your area, and we're basically adding within that packet the table of the top 10 to 15 hard skills found in all job postings, regardless of the industry and occupation, quarter by quarter. So what we can see is this first column here gives from skills from May to July and how those are changing, and basically going up or down in priority throughout the year in terms of need within the region. So to summarise, it could be really easy to look at that inspection framework as something as a tick box exercise, with labour market data being used in a fairly narrow way just to kind of meet the requirements of the inspectors. I think to take this approach would be to miss the point completely of why Ofsted are looking at curriculum intent. We've had a number of customers, as you can see with BCOT, who have really embedded labour market data into the heart of their college and curriculum. And where this has been done, you can really start to see it shaping a curriculum that is much better geared to helping learners get into sustainable career paths, enabling employers to get the right people with the right skills, and then ultimately benefiting the local community as the skills supply comes together to meet that skills demand. Ultimately, labour market data can't solve all your inspection needs. We're not saying we can wave a magic wand with labour market data and all your problems are solved, but it can help you really get into the nub of that curriculum intent, and help you align existing curriculum, develop new provision in line with local employer needs, and clearly articulate that to inspectors. So basically, that's all from us this week. Get in touch, so we'd love to hear about your challenges. Email address, phone number and contact details on the slide. I'd love to be able to kind of discuss needs, talk about challenges, set up any kind of demonstration of any of the data or tools that we've talked about, especially go over those course vision amendments or additions in a little bit more detail. Look out for our next webinar. So the next webinar will be on Ofsted curriculum intent, but mainly around what FE sector leaders think. So some really good insights into some of the key insights from a series of interviews we've done with senior leaders from the FE sector. In particular, we'll be exploring their views on curriculum intent and the college's approach to curriculum planning. So we've given you an overview of what labour market data can do and how it can support, but what this does is basically look at it from basically the side of the principal or the senior management team and give an overview of how they start to tackle it. So thank you for your time this week. I hope that's been useful, and have a nice day, and we will speak to you soon.